Today, I'm going to go over what the definition of narcissistic personality disorder is from the Mayo Clinic. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about narcissistic traits. You could have narcissistic traits, but not be a narcissist. And you have to remember that some people should have some healthy sense of narcissism. What does that mean? It's just meaning that you have a healthy sense of self. You have a healthy sense of self-esteem. You have a healthy sense of confidence. This is good for you. But once, you look at a spectrum, on one end is bad, one end is just as bad. It's always the middle that's the most important. So a healthy sense of self, being confident, having self-esteem are, narcissistic things that you could have that is healthy. So it doesn't mean you have narcissistic personality disorder. So I'm going to read a little bit from the Mayo Clinic, and then I'll go from there. Okay. Narcissistic personality disorder is a mental disorder in which people have an inflated sense of their own importance and a deep need for admiration. Those with narcissistic personality disorder believe that they're superior to others and have little regard for others' feelings. But behind the mask of ultra confidence, not balanced confidence, lies a fragile self-esteem vulnerable to the slightest criticism. That's why if you usually criticize a narcissist, they'll go into narcissistic rage because they can't handle that, because they put this facade of being perfect. Okay. The personality disorder causes people to misunderstand what is really going on with the individual. For example, someone like this will seem to be arrogant and filled with self-confidence. However, beneath this shallow surface lies a person who feels a deep sense of shame, humiliation, and low self-esteem. This is why they are so easily hurt in the face of criticism. These are people who do not function well. They alienate friends and family and come to feel socially isolated and depressed. This is very difficult for them because they do not want to think anything is wrong. Narcissistic personality disorder people are caught between thinking they are superior and feeling miserable at the same time. So this is for the personality disorder. Let's just talk about just narcissism in general without having a personality disorder. There are people who are narcissistic but who do not have a mental illness. These people are experienced as obnoxious because they feel superior to others and see nothing wrong with that. They have little or no empathy with the feelings, conditions, situations, or plight of others. This is a little bit off. If you don't have narcissistic personality disorder, if you don't have it, you do have empathy. So that's why if you are a jackhole and you treat people obnoxiously and somebody tells you it and you weren't really aware of it, you might feel some sense of shame or empathy for the person and look to change that. If you're a true narcissist, you won't care because you have no empathy. Okay. These people who feel entitled to the best of everything while looking down on those who show admiration for them. They also have no difficult exploiting others in order to get what they want. It's important to understand that they have no awareness and no insight into what they do. As a result, they feel no shame or remorse. Well, this is actually narcissism, and if you're narcissistic and you have the personality disorder, you don't have remorse and you don't have empathy. So, but when you have somebody who has narcissistic traits and they're on the higher end of those traits, they might not have so much remorse for something, because you could think of somebody trying to climb the corporate ladder and not caring whose neck they have to step on to get there. But over time they might realize their ways and change them because they feel either ashamed or they feel some empathy somewhere along the line for somebody, and that's a capability to change. means that you're not a narcissist. If you have a narcissistic personality disorder, you will never change. Nothing will change you. You'll just change the people. So if they don't agree with you or they're in your way, you'll get rid of them somehow. So let's see. Narcissistic personality disorder. The person has a grandiose sense of self. They feel special. It doesn't matter what it is, they're the best, or they're the best at it, or they're the best at being the worst at it. No matter what, they have to be the best. So they have to feel special. It's their way is the way and the only way. Can't take any kind of criticism. They are perfect, and the world needs to change in order to make them happy. And if you don't change, fix yourself, or abide by their rules, you are the abuser in which they happen to be a victim of. Am I talking about narcissism? Yes, but you don't see the similarities of this with the whole woke movement and cancel culture? I sure do, because this has become almost a taught ideology within, social media, TV. If you don't believe what I believe, you're the problem. We got to get rid of you because your thought doesn't coincide with my thought or my views, so we got to change yours. So if you look at this from this perspective, narcissism is becoming almost a normalized thing, not the personality disorder. Either you're born with that or you're created into one as a child, going through your child development. But as an adult, you could be taught and cultivated or manipulated or molded into thinking certain beliefs where you're a savior, where your belief is the only belief and anybody doesn't coincide with it is the problem. I put something similar to this in my book, A Warrior in the World. So this is on page 10. So this is an old poem that this reminds me of. Read it, and then afterwards sit silently with it, write down your thoughts and what you feel from it before reading on. So you can use this as a little bit exercise if you want. So once I read this poem, you could pause the video, see what you think, what you feel, write those things down, and then you could press play and then listen to the rest. So, changing the world. When I was a young man, I wanted to change the world. I found it was difficult to change the world, so I tried to change my nation. When I found I couldn't change the nation, I began to focus on my town. I couldn't change the town, so I tried to change my family. Now, as an old man, I know the only thing I can change is myself. And suddenly, I realized that if long ago I had changed myself, I could have made an impact on my family. My family and I could have made an impact on our town. Their impact could have changed the nation, and I could indeed have changed the world. Unknown monk from the 12th century. So just sit there if you want, press pause, write down what your feelings are from this. Once you're done, press play and continue. Okay, so from here, page 11. Even though this is a sweet poem, it is still very attached to the idea of changing others and the world. This might sound nice, but it is still very narcissistic way of thinking. Even though the author got older, he didn't get wiser or change his perception of the world. Who is this person that thinks that others should change in order to fit his or her view or how you or others should live? What if this person was a Satanist? What if they thought the world would be a better place if they got rid of Christianity, Buddhism, or your religion? What if this person was a cannibal and wanted to stop people from being vegans and vegetarians? What if this person was like Hitler, Mao, Stalin, or Pol Pot? These individuals committed the most human suffering and murder in the world according to how they believe the world should be. Their view of a perfect utopia, which they focused on they forced on others. Their greatest achievement in humanity was mass genocide. This is the danger of wanting to infringe upon other people's lives, liberties, and freedoms. This is the danger of having someone that wants to infringe upon your life in any way, shape, or form. This is why an authoritative, totalitarian dictatorship giving someone or a group of people complete control over anyone is a dangerous and ultimate, a fatal idea for truly free people. Here is a different version of a similar concept that we can all benefit and receive something from without impeding on anyone else's life in a negative way. Again, please read this and then sit silent for a few minutes contemplating about it. Yesterday, I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today, I am wise, so I am changing myself. This is Rumi. This is wisdom. This is truth. In this world, we only have the power to change ourselves. We have no power in trying to change others. Once someone can accept and realize that, they can let go of this toxic mindset and attachment in knowing this, you have taken your first step to freedom. So, just something simple like this. We're talking a lot about narcissism and how they abuse us, but then we have to think of, what do they think? How do they feel? How do they manipulate you? How do they treat you according to what you do for them? Because remember, you're just an object of their fuel or supply. So when you adhere to what they want, they treat you pretty well. When things go a little bit off, that's when the abuse and punishment come. And this is a cycle. With a narcissist, once certain things go awry, you're gone. They'll ghost you, or just give you a silent treatment, or, just cut everything off. But if somebody has narcissistic traits and you talk to them about it, they have the ability to change because they don't have the personality disorder. But now when you apply this to the massive society now, where politics is their identity politics, this is a dangerous ideology that has become the norm now. Look at all the cancel culture. If you don't believe what I believe, you need to be silenced. It's no different than narcissists. If you don't believe or do what I want, I will punish you or I will get rid of you. So all this stuff really coincides with each other. While I was learning about certain things today when it comes to neurosis from a book called From Karen, she's an MD, Karen Horney, I think her name is. It's like she was talking a lot about grandiosity. And as she was talking about that in a sense of entitlement, I kept thinking of the whole woke movement. Everything that you see on TV and social media now, everything is like condemning anybody who thinks outside somebody's specific viewpoints. You have to talk a certain way. You have to think a certain way. You have to vote a certain way. This is a very dangerous ideology and very toxic. And this is no different from what a narcissist does to their victim. And remember, if you're a narcissist, you are always a victim, right? Because you're perfect. You can't be an abuser. So if the person doesn't agree with you, they have to be the abuser. And this is no different within this new culture of wokeism, where it's really dangerous because it takes away your own availability of critical thinking. It forces you to silence yourself and not share your opinion. It almost puts people in fear to not look outside the trends. These are important things, because if everybody always thought the same way, we would have never got the iPhone or any of this social media. So you have to be brave enough to go outside those parameters. But when you look at how narcissists treat you with a personality disorder, and then when you think of somebody who has narcissistic traits but not the disorder, those are two different things. Because one could see their actions and change them. But now when you have this type of ideology where all of a sudden everything that you do might offend me and I need to get you in trouble or have people against you, which is like flying monkeys or a smear campaign, it's no different than the narcissist. This is a very dangerous thing, and this has become very, very common now. So people are becoming more and more afraid to speak up. People are becoming more afraid to have debates, more afraid of sharing ideas because they don't want to offend somebody or be thrown out of school or lose friends. And this is something that's very, very dangerous, but this is becoming a norm. So if you think about it, narcissism itself is becoming more mainstream and normalized because of this type of thinking. And this is very, very dangerous. And people need to look in the mirror at themselves before they start pointing fingers at people, because you have to take accountability and responsibility for your own actions and responses. To think that you have to change everything in order to make this world perfect for you is putting yourself in a position of being God. You know, the thing that's beautiful about Buddhism is learning not to take things personally, is learning to know that everybody has a right to think and feel what they want, but you don't have to take it personally. You don't have to be attached to that. That's when non-attachment comes into play. Knowing that you're born into this body, the first noble truth is there'll be suffering, whether it's old age, conflict, illness, disease, any of these things, death, all these things are part of life. Suffering's part of life. So we learn how to cope with it in healthy ways, which helps us deal with the world and others. Not coping with it in healthy ways forces you to take it out on others because they need to change. This is not right, and seems to be the norm, and this is why you have a lot of people with a lot of anxiety. You have a lot of suicide going on, which is horrible, and you have a lot of people who are afraid of speaking up and getting help or therapy because they don't want to be ostracized for having a different opinion. So when we look at all this, it's really important. I don't want to ramble on, but if you look at all the stuff you've been through with your narcissist or toxic person, or somebody who has narcissistic traits that you work with, and then looking at these ideologies that are pushed upon you 24/7 with social media and the news outlets, you have to take a step back and go, wow, this is a little bit extreme. That person might not feel this way, but they have the right to speak. They have the right to express themselves. And especially being an American, the First Amendment is very important. All these things are put in place for you to be able to express yourself and to be free to do so. A lot of things now with different platforms shut you down and censor you, which is not right because everybody's getting a one-sided point of view. So, these are things I just wanted to put out there today to think about, which are really important. Because if you care about anybody, you care about society, you care about people, you have to put yourself in a position to be vulnerable. You have to be able to take criticism. You have to work on yourself. You have to learn to understand people by listening openly. And I remember talking to a person who became friends with, he's a psychiatrist. He goes, a lot of people don't think of the word understand. They think, it's just listen, I'll just listen, okay, I understand. No. To understand somebody is to stand under them. To stand under them is to support them. And it's to fully listen openly. Listen to their opinion. Why do they think that way? Okay, fine. This might be your culture. This might be the way you grew up. This might be just your beliefs. It might be have to do with your religion. Fine. I don't have to hate you for it. I don't have to not be a friend anymore. I don't have to put you down. I don't have to create a smear campaign of flying monkeys to go against you. If the person and you don't get along and there's a lot of conflict, just let them go. It's that simple. You don't have to be so close or be a friend with that person, but you don't have to hate them. You could respect them still. And that's one thing that's really lost in this society. A lot of people don't respect each other anymore. Right away, all the names start flying out and titles, misogynist, racist, Nazi, all these things, totally crazy. Because remember, when you take a word and you lose its meaning of the word, everything gets misconstrued. Like for years, you've heard people call, President Trump, Donald Trump, a narcissist. And you can believe that. That's perfectly fine. But when you keep throwing out, narcissist, that person's a narcissist, this one, it's like, well, what does that really mean? And next thing you know, you're in a relationship with somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder. And you didn't even think about it. Why? Because it's like, oh, it's so overused, like the word love and God. No, the words have meaning. And that's really important to remember. So coming back to everything, it's like you have narcissistic personality disorder. You can't change that. You have people with narcissistic traits. And now you have an ideology that's very narcissistic and unforgiving for people that don't follow in those footsteps. And that's very toxic also. Everybody's different. Everybody has different points of view. But love and respect people for that and allow them to be themselves, because everybody has that right.